streaming from DBS, and more. Log on to www.dbcradio.net. DBS, the nation station.
I begin you live a free pure Dominica lifestyle for man, woman and child. I begin you live a free pure Dominica lifestyle for man, woman and child. For when disaster strikes, yeah. For when disaster strikes, oh, yeah. I begin you live a free pure Dominica lifestyle for man, woman and child. I begin you live a free pure Dominica lifestyle for man, woman and child. For when disaster strikes, yeah. For when disaster strikes, oh, yeah.
Good morning to you, Dominica. Good morning to the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. To the listeners of Kyrie FM, good morning to you. To those of Q95 FM, good morning to you. I am Carlisle John Baptist, Communications Officer of the Office of Disaster Management in Dominica. And with me in studios is the Senior Met Officer, Mr. Marshall Alexander, and the Disaster Preparedness Coordinator, Mr. Fitzroy Pascal. We are here in studios with this simulcast, and we really enjoy being here with you and are happy that you are able to join with us. Remember, tropical wave continues to affect the area, resulting in cloudy to overcast skies with scattered showers, some of which may be moderate to heavy at times, accompanied by thunderstorms. People in areas prone to flooding, landslides, and falling rocks are advised to remain on alert and exercise extreme caution. I will now move across to the Senior Met Officer, Mr. Fitzroy Pascal, who will give us some information Marshall Alexander, Mr. Marshall Alexander to my right, who will give us some information as it relates to the latest update on the weather condition. Marshall.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say thanks be to God for being here. And I'd like to say good morning to all the listeners of DBS Radio and all the other stations connected, and all those viewing on Facebook as well. My name is Marshall Alexander. I'm the Senior Meteorological Officer of the Dominica Meteorological Service. And I would also like to say a pleasant good morning to all the staff of the Met Service as well, who has been working very hard over the years to bring in the information and all the necessary outputs of the Met Office to the public. As of yesterday at about 11 a.m., we had the development of Tropical Storm Jerry yesterday, and that came from a tropical wave that the Met Office was monitoring over the past few days, and it developed into Tropical Storm Jerry as of 11 o'clock yesterday. So as we speak now, the system is still churning in the Atlantic and in the Central Atlantic, that is, with the location at 8 a.m. being 13.3 degrees north and 51.6 degrees west, and that is about 665 miles to the east-southeast of Dominica, or 1,070 kilometers to the east-southeast of Dominica. Now the system is now moving towards the west-northwest. Previously it was moving towards the west, and now it is moving towards the west-northwest, and that is a turn that we were expecting, or we were looking forward to, as it's going to bring the system near the northern Leeward Islands, and that is by tomorrow evening into Friday. So at present we are seeing that the system, or the center of the system, is projected to pass about 180 miles to the north or to the northeast of Dominica, and the extent of the sustained winds, which is 50 miles per hour, is expected, or it goes up to 125 miles from the center. So we have an excess of 55 miles. So again, I'll repeat, the extent of tropical storm force winds is 125 miles from the center, and the system is expected to pass about 180 miles from Dominica. So that gives us an excess of 55 miles. But so we are not concerned with direct impact by that system. That is the center of the system, or the system itself is not expected to pass over Dominica, but expected to pass north. However, we are concerned with the indirect impacts associated with that system.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Alexander. I will now go to the Disaster Preparedness Coordinator, Mr. Fitzroy Pascal. Fitzroy, what does that really mean for us in Dominica in terms of flash flooding and the various conditions?
Okay, good morning to you, Kalai. Good morning to Marshall. Good morning to all listeners of all the radio stations and all the viewers also. Thanks for having the ODM on this program. And as Marshall rightly said, the Tropical Storm Jerry, is expected to pass about 180 miles north or northeast of Dominica, with the maximum sustained winds extending out to 125 miles from the center. So our concern here is really rainfall. On a normal basis, you look for rain events, wind events, and seas. And in terms of priority for Jerry, we're looking at rainfall and seas to a certain extent, but not the wind. For the rainfall, the focus should be on the flooding, landslides and rockfalls. And for seas, I will let Marshall speak more on seas if we're expecting any adverse seas in excess of 10 feet. But for the ODM, the concern really is for the rainfall events, if we have any moderate to heavy rainfall while the system passes north and northeast of Dominica. So we're asking residents to be on the alert for any rainfall events, pay close attention
yes,
to the information provided by the Met Service and the ODM. We all know the uncertainty associated with forecasting intensity, movement, and impacts of weather system. So staying informed is a critical part of your preparedness activities over the next few days and throughout the hurricane season, which is slowly winding down. So again, be mindful that the flash flooding and the landslides are possible during times of heavy rainfall. Landslides are likely as we coming out of a relatively dry period. I know we have had some rain yesterday into today, but we, based on the climatology, we are coming out of a relatively dry period. So we should stay alert during times of heavy rainfall, and people who live along waterways, including rivers and ravines, should be vigilant and be aware of their surroundings during these rain events, and be ready to move to safe area if you observe any rising water. The use of roadways and bridges with caution, especially during the wet spells, and be aware of any water-covered roads and bridges. And people should not attempt to cross any flooded waterways.
Indeed, that is very good information. And one of the things that we always say to people, do not go out there if you do not have to. And that is the difficulties that we always encounter. We have flooding and people want to go out there and take photos and do all sorts of things. But Marshall, what do we expect also from the sea? Do we expect some heavy sea swells, etc.? Can you give us an update also on that?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, our concerns is with the indirect impact of that system.
Get a little close to your mic, yes.
The concern is with the indirect impacts of that system, which includes rainfall. So there's a possibility of rain bands from that system affecting us, because you know that system is not a point. And as I mentioned earlier, the extent of tropical storm force winds 125 miles from the center. So we are expecting to experience pockets of moderate to heavy showers as the system gets closer to us. So our concern is for flooding, landslides, and falling rocks. And we are well aware of our vulnerability in Dominica. So it's just a matter of people being prepared for the impacts of rainfall. And also we could experience as well gusty winds during the proximity of that system, or when that system gets closer to us. So we could see some gusty winds, which could result in some loose objects being blown away and even broken branches and so on. And also marine conditions. So we're expecting that we could receive swells up to 10 to 12 feet in association with that system, as this system is projected to become a hurricane as it gets closer to the area.
So we are telling our fisher folks they need to take guard and they need to do the necessary things to save life and property as we speak at this time.
Well, definitely we are looking at issuing some warnings, some marine warnings for fisher folks, as well as a flood watch or warning may be issued when it becomes necessary during the passage of that system, which is expected to pass north of the Northern Leeward Islands.
If you are listening to us, we have a simulcast with Kyrie FM, DBS Radio, and Q95 FM Radio. In the studios with me is the Senior Met Officer Marshall Alexander and the Disaster Preparedness Coordinator Mr. Fitzroy Pascal. We are discussing the issues of a tropical wave that is affecting the island tropical storm that is affecting the island, and we ask you to be on alert at this point in time. We need to also remind you that we will be joined in a little while by the Minister of National Security, Mr. Ribbon Blackmore, who is expected to join us in a little while. Yes, Fitzroy, I'm Marshall. I keep mixing up my names.
At present, we are being affected by a tropical wave.
Yes.
So that tropical wave is resulting in an increase in shower activity as well as thunderstorm activity, and this is expected to continue throughout this morning with a gradual drying out of the atmosphere expected by this afternoon. So we are still advising people in the areas prone to flooding, landslides and falling rocks to be on alert and to exercise caution during the passage of this wave. And with that, I can also include that with the rainfall we have been receiving so far, we expect soils to be saturated, as was mentioned by Fitzroy, so that could increase the risk of flooding. So we have to pay attention to that as well.
I was also informed that we are also joined by Vibes Radio. So listeners of Vibes Radio, good morning to you. Listeners of Q95, good morning to you. And listeners of Kyrie FM, good morning to you. Some persons are also asking if it would be safe, that is from the Football Association standpoint, they expected to be football matches later today. Would it be safe for them to continue with those activities? They are also asking those questions. And of course, we are there. We need to inform them accordingly. And I think the football match is expected to be about 7 this evening.
That question is for Ugalai.
Well, any one of you, you all are the experts.
Okay, I can only advise on the situation as it relates to the weather condition and expectation. So as I mentioned, we are expecting about 2 to 4 inches of rainfall during that time. So that would increase the risk of flooding, landslides, and falling rocks during the passage of that system. But we will definitely spared. We can see that based on the projection, that we will spare the brunt or the direct impact of that system as is expected to pass to the north of Dominica.
Well, I think Kala was asking for this afternoon, right?
Yes,
or this evening.
For this evening,
Marshall mentioned earlier on that the atmosphere is expected to dry out by later with the passage of the tropical wave. So probably that football match can go on, but the system we're really focusing on is Jerry, which is expected to pass near to the northern leewards by tomorrow. So I think the weather we're really looking at is the weather for tomorrow. And as Marshall rightly said, that it's expected to pass about 180 miles north and north, the center. Yeah. But we're still expecting some indirect impacts, and the hazards that we really look at are rainfall, wind and seas, and the priority now should be on rainfall and the seas and the wind to a certain extent. Gust. I think the rainfall definitely 1 to 3 inches in a short space of time, and the seas. And like I said, I will allow Marshall to really speak on the seas, because for now I don't think they have put out anything concrete on what the seas, the effect of the seas going to have on mariners.
Yes, as I mentioned, we are expecting to put out smallcraft warning and a high surf advisory, and I think the advice should be that smallcraft operators or owners of boats, fishermen, should consider securing their boats.
Yeah, so I think it's better to be safe than
sorry.
Safe than
sorry, yes.
So
yes.
If the Met Office says that we should secure our vessels, then we should go along and secure the vessels. And like Marshall said again, we were spared a direct hit or I think we're expected to be spared. Let me use the word expected to be spared a direct hit, given that the system is expected to pass north and northeast of the island chain, and not any direct effect on Dominica.
We can say
impact.
thanks be to
Yes.
God.
Yeah, so far so good.
So far, so good.
Yes, so far so good. We have been spared the direct hit, so we're just advising the public to remain calm. You know, we are not expecting a direct impact. So it's an event where we are concerned with rainfall. So the public is advised to remain calm, but at the same time to have your preparations in place, because we are in hurricane season. You know, and with these systems, you can have blow-ups of showers. So you have to prepare for those things. And we have vulnerable areas that are prone to flooding, landslides, and falling rocks. So we have to pay attention. But the public's advice to remain calm, as we will spare a direct hit or the direct impact of Tropical Storm Jerry, which is expected to become a hurricane, and it's expected to pass to the north of us, and the center expected to pass 180 miles to the north of us. That's the present projection. Okay, so our concern is for indirect impacts of rainfall, gusty winds, and rough seas, and that is what we should be paying attention to.
And as I said earlier on, we are on a simulcast. We are live in the studios of DBS Radio, but we are also live on Vibes Radio, Q95, and of course Kyrie FM. And we are discussing the soon to come Jerry, and as Marshall said earlier on, the various forecast track that he gave us. And we will also be joined in a little while by the Minister of National Security, Mr. Blackmore, and we're expecting him to join us either in studios or via the radio. He might be calling, so we expect him to join us. And of course, weigh in on the entire situation, because, you know, guys, during those times, you know, people give various information. And it's very, very important that the Met Office is there in studio. The Office of Disaster Management is also there. And we are able to give the proper information to the entire Dominican public. That is very, very good. You've not heard of those things in a long while.
Yes, correct. Because just yesterday, not an argument, but I was in a discussion with someone, and they were saying that they listen to the other people on YouTube and so forth. But I said the information they take comes from the National Hurricane Center.
Mm-hmm.
And despite there being a shutdown in government in the U.S. at present, the Hurricane Center, the mandate of the Hurricane Center is to provide that sort of information. And they have said on their website that their sites will remain updated. And actually, Marshall left that out, but I think they're going to send in 2 aircrafts this afternoon into Jerry to investigate.
No, it is investigated.
So they're investigating.
Right
So
Yes,
I think
yes.
Marshall just
Yes.
came from a discussion with them.
Yes.
So they are investigating Jerry right now, and they will provide the National Met Services with the relevant required information so that they can inform the populace, their populace, as to exactly the outcome of the passage of that weather system. But again, to reiterate, and Marshall, I keep saying Marshall said it, we should remain calm. And we
That is information. That is the operative word. Remain calm.
Yeah, we are in the hurricane season, and we're actually winding down the hurricane season. So preparations for the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season should have been made months in advance, probably almost a year ago. So that we should be mindful and take the necessary preparations and precautions to ensure that we remain safe. And we have severe weather threats from time to time, so we should be well aware of what we need to do in times of these events.
I was told that we have the Minister of National Security on the line, so let me welcome him. Minister Blackmore, good morning to you. Welcome to the simulcast.
Good morning to you, Carla. Good morning to our listeners, and good morning to Mr. Marshall and Mr. Pascal and everybody listening to the free radio station. I think it's historic in the sense that in a short period of time we could have actually organized that kind of communique, which is to me critical, because we have to ensure that you guys are out there engaging the public to mitigate against any false narrative being put out there, because false narrative can also impact on people's safety. So it's absolutely important for us to leave our offices and to go out there. And yes, we have the social media platforms, and of course you can transmit information, but it's always more important to be in person, so that people can ask questions and people can be reassured that the people who are paid to perform certain tasks actually are not sleeping on the job and actually monitoring the order. And of course, the systems are in place, and all the judicial personnel or people from a NIPO standpoint, the subcommittees are actually in a state of readiness, right? Is not so? And you would have met yesterday to ensure systems are put in place, notwithstanding the fact that we have been blessed so far, but we have to ensure that we remain on the alert. And just to inform the public, there are certain things that you can do and to ensure that you're better prepared. Certain basic things, cleaning your drains, ensuring that you have your own plans within your homes. Your windows are properly fastened, the structure is sound, and you have enough water, basic stuff. And because we're still in the hurricane season, let us not forget it. 8 years ago, around that time, we were in a state of despair. We at that time, we were down as a nation, not knowing, of course, as to whether we were going to recover from the devastation of Hurricane Maria. But we have been able to do so because of our resolve and our leadership. So I want to commend you, Mr. Pascal, Mr. Marshall. I too much should be in his way, I think. And all the, just on Monday, we did a walk in the Met Services headquarters in Jimmy. And that's why we have made the investment as a government, as the people, in the tools of trade, in ensuring that you have a trained personnel. So we have to ensure that you go out there to keep the public informed on all radio stations, PBS Radio, Kyrie FM, 295, every available radio station. We have to ensure that we hit the road running and to ensure we engage our people. Hello?
Yes, indeed, Minister. You know, so many things happening at this time here. But very, very good information, as you quite rightly said. Historic that at a very, very short time we were able to join Kyrie FM, Vibes Radio, and Q95. And we are in studios of DBS Radio. We want to thank them. We want to thank the management of Kyrie FM, of Vibes Radio, and of Q95, who had to disrupt their broadcast, their normal broadcast, to really join us in this very, very important venture to ensure that our populace get the necessary information as it relates to the weather conditions in Dominica.
Yes, that's important, because the thing is, while I'm so happy that I heard it from Mr. Pascal and Mr. Marshall, and that our level of preparedness in terms of our med services, ODM, but of course, from a policy standpoint, from a government standpoint, there's certain things you can do. But the owners ultimately reside within the individuals. So let us suppose, for matter of fact, further watch is issued. It's important for you to ensure that you exercise the caution that needs to be exercised. Let us suppose it is graduated to a warning. You have to ensure that if you're in a vulnerable area, you're living next to a river, etc., that you make yourself to safer ground. These are things that you can do for yourself. If you get in a situation whereby you have been asked to move to a shelter, I mean, you have to ensure that you take within yourself to understand the significance of that, and the responsibility is based on you to ensure that you get to a shelter. Yeah, and all the things that we can do, we are providing the shelters for our people, and in situations where transportation is going to be needed for the vulnerable groups, and that, of course, is a responsibility by the fire and ambulance services and other social organizations. But the family members have to kick in, the councils have to kick in. It has to be a collective endeavor on all fronts in times of disaster. But we're not there yet. Although we're looking like we're scared again, which is important to stress. Looking like we're scared again. Well, I mean, when you're looking at water events, things can change very quickly. And so that is why it's important for us to be on a sense, to have to be in a sense of readiness.
Readiness, that's very important.
And that has to be manifest in our behavior and in our disposition. I'm not going to stay too long, except just to reiterate some of the investment we have made, which makes it easier for Mr. Marshall and I to many folks and then all the great staff at the Met Services, is that we've invested, Marshall, and significantly in automatic water gauges throughout the country, weather stations, satellites, and of course we had just recently the Cuban government assisting us in more or less a data acquisition system, what is called a high resolution a model that allows the Met Services to know and to inform the public where the rainfall is going to be heavier. We never had that before. And we have the equipment and the trained personnel that gives us the ability and the competence, more importantly, to issue our own warning or our own watches. And that is why we have to build that public trust and confidence. And that can only be done by interfacing with the public and ensuring that we provide accurate information. And the more you have a situation whereby your forecast are more precise, your warning and watches are more realistic and reasonable, people will get that confidence. And then that is why talking to the public is important. So I'm happy that you guys were able to respond quickly and out there. And let us ensure going forward that we maintain that culture of commitment to the public and to provide information to the public. Instead of people sitting down there, but everything rains heavily, if you hear about tropical wave, it's important, Marshall, and because you to Fitzroy, you're training meteorology also. That's the area of qualification. To try to disaggregate some of the information. What do we mean by when you hear about the tropical wave and stuff like that? And we hear about gusty winds and how do we differentiate the difference between storm winds? What do we mean? Or wind speed or wind strength that below storm strength. And those things are important to break down to the ordinary folks. But when I'm hear about the storm coming, a storm, and then you see flood. What is the difference between a flood warning
and a flood watch?
And a flood watch. And then sometimes you may be threatened, you may hear about a storm. The storm passing close to us, but we're not going to get storm force of wind, right? So we may have to install a flood warning or what, because it might get rain and not wind. It might get gusty wind, but the strength of the wind is not the threshold of a storm. So all those little things you need to break down for the public to understand. And so there'll be less questioning of your warnings and your watches and stuff like that going forward. So I want to just encourage you guys to continue doing. You have my support. You have the support of the government. We will continue to invest heavily as a government in our Met Services, ODM, etc., and to ensure that we build the resilience that we need to build. But let us ensure that we do not allow people to go out there and run with the information that is not true, and they create a sense of panic. And so too much information is never a bad thing. It's not so.
That is very correct. That is why, again, we have the simulcast. So we are not going to go to different radio stations and give different information. We have one channel and everybody is getting that information immediately.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm a nice day, folks. I just want to go and encourage you guys to do what I want to compliment you, Carla, since we have become the communication officer for the ODM, the coordinating ODM coordinates. In terms like that, they have been on the ball. They have been proactive, and when you're proactive, you solve so many problems. Do you get my point?
Yes.
I believe that has to be that is the mantra of the ministry, to go out there and give the information. And I've always said to all the various heads of department within the ministry, you have an obligation. You're in service to the people. Do you understand what I'm saying? And you cannot be in service to the people by sitting down in your respective offices, especially if you're a med officer or you're working with the ODM. It's absolutely impossible. Do you get my point?
Yep.
Okay. Have a nice day, folks.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Minister.
And
have a
thank you very
blessed
much
day.
to DBS, the management of DBS, Carrier FM, Vibes Radio, and Q95. Thank you very much for that opportunity.
Thank you very much. That was the Honorable Minister for National Security, Mr. Reuben Blackmore, who was on the line with us, engaging us in the discussion. Marshall, this time I have it right. You have some other very important information that you want to share with us and the general public.
I just want to clarify a few things, like just to give a slight definition, to give a slight definition of what sustained winds actually mean, because I said that we're not expected to experience sustained winds. And sustained winds is basically the average wind speed usually measured over a period of 1 minute in a tropical cyclone. And when I say tropical cyclone, I'll be referring to a tropical storm or hurricane. So that is what the definition of sustained winds means. And as it relates to a watch and a warning definition, the difference comes with the timing and the possibility or the expectation of that event. For example, a flood watch would mean that flooding is possible, and the keyword here is possible, within 48 hours. And a flood warning would mean that flooding is expected within 36 hours. So the keyword here is expected, and there's also the timing, which differentiates the two, which is 48 hours for the watch and 36 hours for the warning. And that is why timing is critical when it comes to the issuance of a watch or a warning, because sometimes you can lose time based on probably the development of the event or the quick formation of the event, and we might need to issue a watch or a warning in quick time based on how the events would develop. So that is the difference between a watch and a warning, and the definition of what is sustained winds. So as I mentioned earlier, we do not expect to experience sustained winds to tropical storm force, but we can experience gust to tropical storm force, which would be a sudden increase in wind speed that would last less than a minute.
Yes, thank you very much. Fitzroy, you have anything else to add to that? As we, in terms of speaking about preparedness, we always, every week, we keep telling people to be prepared, to be prepared, to be prepared. We cannot overemphasize that. Those persons in low-lying areas, we expect flash flooding. Those of you close to rivers, ravines, please take note. Fitzroy?
Yes, well, Kala, you said it already, and at the ODM, we encourage preparedness so that the populace can be safe, and we're looking at individuals to secure your livelihoods and your property, and we have been having sessions in terms of educating the populace. We have been going around in the different communities. We've been going to schools. I think we have a school event for Friday.
For Friday, God's willing, at the State College.
Yeah, at the State College. So I think in terms of preparedness, we have been trying our best to spread that message. We look at individuals, ensure, and I think the Honorable Minister mentioned that individuals should ensure that their surroundings are safe, ensure that your house is in a safe state. Look at your roofs, it's securely fastened, your windows and doors securely fastened. And these are just general comments for the hurricane season. But if I were to go back to Jerry, which is a tropical storm, expected to become a hurricane tomorrow, I would say, and guided by the Met Service, that the focus, and we should remain calm, but the focus should be on the rainfall event. And if that does materialize, we should ensure that we pay close attention to river waterways, that is rivers and ravines, ensuring that we stay away or we are cautious when traversing these areas, because flash flooding can occur. And I think the Met Service will likely put out a flash flood watch or warning as they see necessary. And as Marshall was saying, the flash flood watch and warning is different from a tropical storm watch and warning. Where we have a tropical storm watch or warning, we're looking at a bigger event, we call it in meteorology a synoptic event. And if we're looking at a flash flood watch or warning, we're looking at something, a mesoscale feature that is related to somewhere on an island locally. So I think the Met Office may put out a flash flood watch or warning tomorrow as they see fit. And Marshall mentioned it earlier that they're also looking at putting out some sort of advisory for the mariners. So again, I continue to stress that the event, rainfall event and seas. So people living in low-lying areas should ensure that they are cautious, and the mariners should ensure that their vessels are secure.
Again, if you are just joining us, we are there on DBS Radio with a simulcast, Vibes Radio, Q95, and of course, Kyrie FM Radio, and we are discussing various aspects of this system that's Jerry, that is expected to affect us sometime tomorrow, God's willing. And again, with me in the studio is the Senior Met Officer, Mr. Marshall Alexander, and the Disaster Preparedness Coordinator, Fitzroy Pascal. Marshall?
Okay, just to go back to yesterday, yesterday we were monitoring that system and it formed at a low latitude. And I will explain what that means, because the latitude is what we are looking at sometimes when we have storms out in the Atlantic. And when the system is at a low latitude, it would be at something at 11 degrees north latitude. And then it continues to move, towards the west. And we're always looking forward to that turn. And yesterday it was predicted that we're expecting that the system would turn towards the west-northwest. And it was moving west yesterday. But last night at 11 p.m., I saw that turn west-northwest, which kind of gave me a
sign of relief.
Sign of relief?
Exactly,
yes.
A sign
Well,
of relief
one thing of a better
when I saw, because that is something I was really looking forward to, because that would have given us a better chance of not being impacted directly by that storm. So when it happened and I saw the forecast track, I was a little more comfortable with that, and we continue to monitor. And right now, the latitude has increased, and it has been increasing, and it is now at 13.1 degrees north latitude. And Dominica's latitude is at 15.4 degrees north latitude. So that system, as we continue to monitor, we are looking forward that it will increase in latitude and going above our latitude, which is 15.4. And then we will see ourselves as being in the clear with that system being way out in the Atlantic. So that is what we are looking forward to.
A question that is being asked, travelers, etc. In terms of travelers, what sort of information would you have for them?
You talking about air travel?
Yes.
I do know, I cannot speak for the airport services or the airport authority, DASPA. I think if they have their plan in place, they will have their plan in place. So if it necessitates that the airport is shut down, but from what we see in that, we don't think that any action will be taken like that.
Okay, so persons who are out to travel, they are very safe.
Well,
if you want, you can contact your travel agency to ensure that that everything is okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, there have been tropical storm watches issued for most of the islands to the north.
Yes.
From Guadeloupe to the north. And as I mentioned earlier, the reason that we are not on the tropical storm watch is because of the probability of experiencing tropical storm force winds, sustained tropical storm force winds. And based on the size of the system.
Because I was just going to ask how large is the system?
Well, the tropical storm force winds extend 125 miles from the center.
Mm-hmm.
And based on the discussion or the briefing we had earlier, it was seen that it was mainly to the east and north of the center. So we are looking at a clearing towards us. So basically the system is pulling towards the north. But in terms of intensity, we also have the question of what happens when that system becomes a hurricane. So I had that question from one of the number one sports reporters in Dominica, that's Gavin. So he was asking me about what happens when the system develops into a hurricane. Well, if the system moves from a storm to a hurricane, what we have is that we have the system becoming more compact. So when that system becomes more compact, it tends to pull everything, all the convection together. So that even makes the system be less impactful to us in terms of feeder bands escaping from that system, because the system remains more compact. So that's the difference. So when the system is a storm, it is more like you can say radical. It is kind of loose. So anything can escape from it. A feeder band can escape from it. But when it's a hurricane, it tends to be more compact, and all the convection is pulled together towards the center. So that's the difference. So when the system becomes a hurricane, there will still be a concern for feeder bands moving across or escaping from that system. Some call it feeder bands, some call it rain bands, some call it feeder bands. So there's still that possibility. However, as the system becomes a hurricane, we're expecting that the system will be more compact and most of the convection will be pulled towards the center.
Wonderful information. So again, we are here with this simulcast. I was also told that Voice of Life, unfortunately, I missed out. Unfortunately, sorry, Voice of Life. I missed out on them. I was told that they seem to have just joined us. So again, you see the whole radio communication, Vibes Radio, Q95, Voice of Life, and Kyrie FM. And we really, really want to thank the management and staff of those various radio stations, because they had to break their normal broadcasting to join with this with us to get this very, very important information out there. We're only going to be there for the next 16, 17 minutes left. Yeah, we depart at 11 o'clock, and we really hope that when we leave, that the information that we would have given you, that you will take it seriously. Our fisher folks, take note of the information, because it is very, very likely, as Marshall mentioned, that we might be having some storm surge. How do you call it, Marshall? How do you call it?
Just rough seas.
Rough seas, yes. Yeah. Rough seas. I was looking for the proper term, So, yes, so please take note of that. And those of you in low-lying areas, remember the soil is already saturated. The rivers, ravines, be extremely careful, be extremely cautious as you traverse the country at this point in time, especially tomorrow, Fitzroy.
Yes, ma'am.
But I would also like to say that I noticed, as it relates to Jerry, that the extent of the tropical storm force winds decreased overnight, because at first the extent was 140 miles from the center, and as of this morning we realized that it was decreased to 125 miles from the center. So we realized that system, the extent of tropical storm force winds, is decreasing as it relates to tropical storm Jerry.
What generally does that mean in terms of the lowering of the tropical storm force winds? What does that generally mean?
Well, definitely it would mean that the system is kind of pulling together, and the extent of the wind is getting closer to the eye. So the system is basically pulling together, starting to really organize itself to become a hurricane.
And in terms of the eye, the center of the eye, do you have any coordinates as it relates to that?
Well, yes, we had the coordinates as of 8 a.m. this morning, which was 13.1 degrees north and 51.6 degrees west. So it's 13.3 degrees north latitude and 51.6 degrees west longitude. And Dominica is at 15.4 degrees north latitude and 61.3 degrees west longitude. So if you do the calculation and you want to find the distance, you will notice that the distance is about 665 miles to the east-southeast
of Dominica.
Okay.
I see you have your computer. Do you have any information again that you would want to share with us as we continue our discussion?
Basically, most of the information was shared, but just to advise the public to be on alert for the indirect impacts of that system and to remain calm, and to just have your necessary preparation plans in place as we are in the hurricane season, and we never really had any direct impact for the year. So it is September, and God has spared us.
It's October.
So we're October, sorry, but we passed through September, which was basically the peak month, and we were spared. So we're just looking forward to God continuing to watch over Dominica.
I'm going to have us to open the line for the next 15 minutes to engage our listeners. So persons who wish to call can always call us and discuss with us. So we're opening the line for our next 15 minutes. We end at 11 o'clock. So you are free to call us and have a discussion with us. Engage us as we continue to bring you this information on DBS Radio, 1-800-327-448-3284. You can call us and share with us whatever information. Ask the experts who are in the house, our senior Met officer, and of course the Office of Disaster Management. You could call us and share with us whatever information that you want to at this point in time. As we continue to engage with you, again, we are here. No, Matt, we are not done yet. We're still in studio, and we continue to give the various information as it relates to the situation that is expected to affect us. That is Jerry. It's a tropical depression, tropical storm that is expected to affect us sometime tomorrow. Again, as I said, our lines are open. You can call us and have a brief discussion with us, ask a few questions if you want, and engage us in the necessary information. Mr. Alexander gave you the various coordinates as it relates to Jerry, and as you are aware, we have been spared. Thanks be to God, we have been spared. We have a call on the line. Caller, good morning to you. Welcome.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, recently we heard of some tornadoes in Trinidad. Is it likely that Dominica can be faced with any tornado? And speak to tornadoes and tell us a little more about that. And the forecast for tomorrow, is it likely that there will be a lot of rain, torrential rain? I want you to tell us a little more about that. Thank you.
You were speaking about the tornado that affected Trinidad and Tobago yesterday, and you also wanted to find out what type of weather forecast that we are expecting tomorrow in terms of rain.
Okay, we are living in a time of climate change, and we are living in a time when some new things are happening. And a tornado in Trinidad is something relatively not expected by some people. But I just want to say that as long as the conditions are favorable, that we would have the development of those systems. And the reasoning given for that tornado was unstable weather conditions, as I heard in the news. But you have to ask, what caused the unstable weather conditions? And as you are aware that we are experiencing a tropical wave, and these unstable conditions was associated with, or is associated with, a tropical wave. So these unstable weather conditions associated with a tropical wave, which is moving through the islands at this time. And as it relates to the weather conditions for tomorrow, well, we are expecting to see a gradual drying out of the atmosphere by this afternoon and into some parts of tomorrow. However, as the system gets closer, we expect to see a deterioration in weather conditions, with conditions becoming increasingly cloudy, with showers and possible isolated thunderstorms, gusty winds, and also I mentioned rough seas. We also expect rough seas, which is something we don't usually get away from when we have the approach of those systems. Okay, so that is the anticipation that we expect to see a deterioration in weather conditions as the system gets closer. And if you look, if for those on Facebook, right?
Facebook, yes.
You can see the movement of Tropical Storm Jerry as it approaches the northern section of the Leeward Islands. And if you look closely, you can see in the region of the cursor where Dominica is. We have Guadeloupe, and then we have Dominica, and being impacted by a tropical wave. So we can see some areas of cloudiness in the region of Dominica, and mostly to the north. And then we have Jerry, Tropical Storm Jerry, out in the Atlantic, and clearly you can see that it is moving towards the west-northwest, approaching the northern section of the northern Leeward Islands. And then I will just move over to the next to my next slide here. Here you can see the projected path of Tropical Storm Jerry. So we have the position at 8 a.m. showing the wind field in brown. And then as you go across, we can see that it's expected to become a hurricane by 2 p.m. tomorrow, which is Thursday. And here you can see in yellow, these are the islands that are under Tropical Storm Watch, which is to the north of Dominica. Okay, so that's the projected path. And that system becoming a hurricane by 2 p.m. Thursday. And as you can see, Dominica is not in the direct path of that within that cone. Okay, and again we can look at the probability for sustained tropical storm force winds. And if you look closely, you can see that there's a probability between 5 to 20% of Dominica experiencing sustained tropical storm force winds. So I have to be mindful of that word, sustained.
Sustained, yes,
Right.
yes, indeed.
So as you can see, if you look closer, we can see the southern part of Dominica has a lower percentage probability of experiencing tropical storm force wind sustained, and the north is up to between 10 to 20%. So it's very low.
Relatively low.
It's very low. So all that is part of the reason why we did not
Issue.
issue a tropical
The
storm
rainfall
watch.
projection.
Because
Dominica.
people would be
Yes.
asking for, saying, oh, well,
Yeah.
watches and warnings have been issued and the Dominica and whatever.
Yes.
But here it is right there.
Yeah. So also here we can
Rainfall.
see the rainfall projection or the expected rainfall for the region. And if you can see, Dominica is here in the green, between 2 to 4 inches projected, or 50 to 100 millimeters of rainfall expected. And you can see the south, just the tip of the south,
Right to the end there.
1 to 2 inches, or 25 to 50 millimeters. Okay, so that's the projection. Basically, you can see basically for the entire island, because this is just a projection. So to go on the side of caution, we will go for 2 to 4 inches. So generally, I can say that the public can expect, based on the projection, to see rainfall accumulations of 2 to 4 inches during the passage of that system, with the center expected to pass about 180 miles to the north of Dominica.
Wonderful. 6 minutes before 11 o'clock. We leave at 11 o'clock this morning. Again, we are giving you information as it relates to Tropical Storm Jerry that is expected to impact us sometime tomorrow, God's willing. In studios is Senior Met Officer Marshall Alexander and the Disaster Preparedness Coordinator Fitzroy Pascal. And we are also live on Q95 Kyrie FM Vibes Radio and
Voice of Life.
Voice of Life, yes. Q95 Vibes Radio, Kyrie FM also. We want to say thank you so much to the management and staff of the various radio stations who were able to join us at very, very short notice, as we wanted to ensure that we give information to the general public. We have a next call on the line. Caller, good morning to you.
Well, I'm the caller. Good morning, gentlemen.
Oh, yes, doctor. Yes.
Yes, gentlemen. Thank you for the information. I just wanted to ask, based on your data, I know you've said the islands to the north of Dominica, but can you name the specific islands? Can you name the islands specifically that would be under a hurricane watch or warning at this time?
Okay, there's no islands. There are no islands under hurricane watch.
Okay.
But the islands that are under tropical storm watch are Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts, Nevis and Montserrat, St. Bartholomew, St. Martin and St. Martin, Sabre, St. Eustatius and Guadeloupe. So watches are issued for the islands from Guadeloupe northwards.
Okay, thank you. Tropical storm watches.
Yes,
Thank
tropical
you.
storm watches.
Right. So, wonderful information being disseminated there. And again, you have an opportunity to call us and interact with us. We have another 5 or so minutes as we wind down here this morning. And we really hope and trust that we were able to give you all the necessary information as it relates to Tropical Storm Jerry. We have been spared, as you heard, from our senior Met officer. So thank God for that. We have to really give God thanks, because without him, nothing is possible.
Yes, because if you look closely at that satellite image, you would notice that the what we call the tail end of that system tend to be lagging, and what that would mean that after the center of that system would pass to the north of Dominica, we will still expect to see an increase in rainfall activity, because that as well is expected to pull moisture from the south across the islands, increasing the rainfall, the chances for rainfall.
Okay, so gentlemen, your final departing words to our many listeners far and wide, those listening to us on Kyrie, DBS, QFM, Vibes Radio, and of course Voice of Life. And Fitzroy?
Well, generally, hazards related to these tropical systems are wind, rain, and seas. For Jerry, whether it becomes a hurricane tomorrow, I think we should focus on rainfall, a rainfall event, and some deterioration in the seas. The graphic that Marshall showed, rainfall 2 to 4 inches can be expected. So residents, the populace, the general public should be mindful of flash flooding, landslides, rock falls. An indirect impact, but nonetheless, we should exercise caution for these sort of hazards. The mariners, they should ensure that they secure their vessels with the passage of Jerry tomorrow.
Marshall, you have the...
Yes, just to update the public on the 11 a.m., the new position at 11 a.m. System is now at 13.9 degrees north and 52.7 degrees west, and that is about 750 miles to the east southeast of the northern Leeward Islands at this time. So we can see that there has been an increase in latitude, so which means that the storm is jogging to the north, and that is what we are looking at, and that's what we will be grateful to see. You know, that would tell you that the storm is expected to pass to the north of the Lesser Antilles and near the northern Leeward Islands. So this is the 11 a.m. update, and in closing, I just want to say thank God for the opportunity to be here. Let's hope and pray that God continues to guide us and protect us in Dominica as we are in the hurricane season. We heard the prediction. Just to also say thank you to all the staff of the Met Service for the excellent work that they continue to do, you know, and to advise the public to continue to monitor our weather updates. So we have our Facebook page, we have our WhatsApp channel, we also have Instagram, we also have a website where we issue information, weather.gov.dm, so you can go there and get all the information you need on the weather. And if you have any questions, you can also call into the Met Office, and just to say that the cycle is not complete unless we have the response from the public. So even though we put out all kind of warnings and information and there is no response from the public, then it doesn't make any sense. So when you get the information, you respond to the information, and that would complete the cycle. Okay.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And we also want to thank the Honorable Minister for National Security, who was able to join us on the line this morning. And we also want to thank the management and staff of Kyrie FM, QFM, Acoustic, Voice of Life Radio, and also the management and staff of DBS Radio. And did I mention QFM? Yes, QFM, for agreeing at very short notice to interrupt the broadcast and have us here for 1 hour to bring you the information as it relates to Tropical Storm Jerry. Until then, also I want to thank our Senior Met Officer, Mr. Marshall Alexander, and his entire staff, and the Office of Disaster Preparedness Coordinator, Mr. Fitzroy Pascal, the coordinator, and the entire staff for agreeing to join us here at, again, very short notice to be on this broadcast. Until then, stay safe. I'm Khalil John Baptist, Communications Officer of the Office of Disaster Management. Bye for now.
bag